Warning, this guide features early strats. Better strats can and will be discovered if they haven't already, so be mindful. Hi guys, and welcome to a Hector lecture guide to the fight Recollection Extreme. This is Zelenia. For this fight, you're going to want standard light parties and standard clock spots. You're also going to have times where the supports need to go inner cardinals and DPS to cardinals, so use color pairs. Additionally, there's one mechanic that really benefits from fan spreads, where supports are on one side and DPS are on the other side. I use these spreads, however, there's nothing wrong with doing supports north, DPS south. Just make sure your melees can have their positionals. The fight starts with Thorned Catharsis, which is a raid-wide. Afterwards, we get Shock, and go to our clock spots. 4 players, all from one role, are going to get the standard point-blank AoEs that we saw in normal mode. In this case, it's the DPS. These are going to drop a puddle that's going to persist and repeatedly hit, so you need to move out of it. The other 4 players, the other role, are going to get what are very large donut AoEs. These players instead have to stand perfectly still so they don't walk into the attack. The boss will follow this up with a cast of Alexandrian Holy, and this spawns 4 towers. The donut players are going to be the ones to take the towers. So we use our color pairs that we discussed earlier. The supports go to their intercardinals, and the players that have the point-blank AoEs just need to find somewhere else to go, making sure to leave themselves a place to dodge to. When the ticks go down, the players in the donut AoEs stand perfectly still, while the players in the point-blank AoEs walk out of them. Next up, we get Spectre the Lost. This is a tank buster tether that's going to spawn on 2 random players. The tanks just need to pick this up, pop mitigation, and go someplace where they're not going to cleave anyone. Afterwards, we get Escelon's Fall. For this, we've got all of the players in their clock spots, and I start with DPS already inside. We're going to get some random symbols appearing on the boss, and this is telegraphing the next 4 hits of the attack. This is complicated, so let's take things to the chalkboard. First, this symbol here means that the 4 nearest players are going to get targeted. This symbol means the 4 furthest players from the boss are going to get targeted. Each hit gives a 5-second vuln, and since the hits happen every 3 seconds, this essentially means no player can take 2 attacks in a row. This means we're going to have to occasionally swap who's the nearest and the furthest players by having rolls either move in or out of the hitbox. Now, there's really only 2 possible patterns for this mechanic. The single swap is when you see the first 2 symbols are different from each other. In this case, players can stand still for the first 2 hits, and then swap which roll is in and which roll is out after 2 hits. You can then stand still for the next 2 hits. The double swap is when you see 2 of the same symbol back to back. When this happens, you need to swap after the first hit, and then do another swap after the 3rd hit. Let's take a look at this. Escelon's Fall goes off, and we see the near bait, followed by the far bait. We now know it's going to be a single swap. Far bait, near bait. Let's put those up top, and here's how it goes. The DPS are already in, so they naturally just take the near bait, and the supports are already out, so they naturally take the far bait. This is single swap, so we swap after 2 hits. The far bait now hits the DPS, and the near bait hits the supports. And that's it. Stock break is just a multi-hit stack. Hits 4 times, make sure to mitigate. Now we get Blessed Barricade, and we're going to have all the supports go west and all the DPS go east as we start an add phase. For this, you've got 4 Roseblood drops that need to be DPS'd down to be able to continue. 1 random support and 1 random DPS is going to be tethered to this add. The support's always going to be tethered to the west add, and the DPS always to the east add. We're also going to get a 3-person tower on each side. The first one will always spawn at 2 and 4. The player with the add can rotate their add, and they need to make sure that the sword of the add is pointed outside of the arena because that's the side that they're going to cleave. The other players are just going to hop into the tower on their side. Be mindful as the player with the add that you will actually be in the telegraph of the attack, and you're going to need to dodge out of it very quickly afterwards. This then repeats over and over again. We get a total of 3 sets of 3-man towers, and we get 4 tethers where every single player on each side is eventually going to get tethered to the add. Continue to dodge it as I showed before, DPS down the drops. Assuming you've done this in time and Zelenia's ether hasn't risen to 100, the shield will fall off the boss will become targetable and cast Perfumed Quietus, which is an ultimate attack. Just mitigate and heal through. In this phase, we now get Roseblood Bloom attacks, and every time this is cast, you're going to get the stage transitioning. Be aware, whenever the stage is in this new form, there is a circle in the middle of the arena, just a tiny one, that will cause a very spicy dot to go on you. Don't run directly through the middle of the arena. You'll notice that some of the tiles are plain and some of the tiles are red. Right now, that doesn't really matter. However, certain attacks can cause the red, viney tiles to become unsafe. Say, for instance, Alexandrian Thunder 2. This is 3 conal cleaves, and the boss will have it rotate. Look at the safe tiles, the ones that don't have vines on it. There should be 3 inner safe tiles all together, in this case sort of in the 3 corner between B and 4. Go there, and go behind the rotation of this attack. Then slowly follow it as it rotates around, making sure not to sit in the attack, and not to accidentally step on one of the red tiles, as they are now dangerous and will cause severe damage if you're stood in one. Just as you think you're running out of room, the attacks will stop, and instead every player is targeted with an Alexandrian Thunder spread. The vine tiles are no longer unsafe, which means you can move through them to go spread. However, they will become unsafe again when the spreads go off, so don't be stood in a viney tile. You can just free-for-all this spread, there's plenty of time and plenty of room. Be aware that this first mechanic can come with an alternate floor pattern, but it's still the same basic idea. Find the 3 inner safe tiles, in this case between 2 and D, and stand behind the rotation of the attack. So in this case, players would start at A. After this first one, we get a Thorn Catharsis Raid-wide, and then we get Roseblood Second Bloom. The stage transitions again, remember not to be middle. And here we see that there are only a small number of safe tiles, 3 on each side. One side is 2 in and 1 out safe. One side is 2 out and 1 in safe. The boss is going to cast Thunder Slash, and we get 2 things going on at once. We get these rotating orange AoEs. They'll go off in the same order that they appear. And we get a telegraphed in-out. If the flowers are on the outside of the AoE, then it's an in, because the outside's going to get hit. If the flowers are on the inside, then it's an out, because inside is going to get hit. When Thunder Slash first goes off, both things happen at the same time, and focus first on the in or out. Here we have out is safe. If out is safe first, go to the side with 2 inner safe tiles. If in is safe first, go to the side with 2 outer safe tiles. Here out is safe first, so we go to D because there are 2 inner safe tiles on that side. We wait outside of the hit, and then we dodge in, and we pay attention as to whether or not we have to immediately dodge to the side. Sometimes you will, sometimes, like in this case, you can wait for 1, and then dodge. As you do the final dodge, be aware that the red tiles are no longer unsafe, so you can go on them if you feel like it. We get a Spectre of the Lost Tank Buster Tethers, and Roseblood Third Bloom. Roseblood Third Bloom is always going to show up with this pattern, though it can be rotated in a random direction. What we want to do is we want to find the tile in the middle of the 2 red inner tiles. This is going to be our new north for this mechanic, so I'm going to rotate things around, and you'll see that we have all players going to their color pair relative to this new north. Bud of Valor is going to get cast, and you'll see that the 4 outer tiles have actually got tower spires sticking out of them. The entire tile now counts as a tower. Emblazon is going to target 4 players, either all supports or DPSs, with these Rosebud drops. When this attack goes off, these players are going to change the tile they're stood in into the red viney tiles. To solve this, whichever players do not have the Rosebuds are going to soak the towers. Whichever players do are going to stand exactly here, and let me show you why. When their roses drop, you'll see that any connected tiles are going to count as one massive connected tower. If we accidentally drop these in a way that connects 2 of the towers to each other, the towers are invalid and it fails. You cannot actually solve the towers. So we had to drop them like this to avoid connecting any of the towers together. Be aware that now the entire large northern and southern areas count as a tower, which means that the main tank and the off tank can stand anywhere in there and it counts as soaking their tower. Whichever players just dropped the AoEs, they need to now walk off of the red ones, and the other players need to make sure that there's 1 per tower so that we can resolve the tower safely. There's a Thorn Catharsis Raid-Watt, and now we split up supports west and DPS east again, ready for Bud of Valor. 3 players, all from 1 roll, are going to get targeted with the Donut Shock attacks from earlier. 1 support and 1 DPS. Each are going to get a stack marker. And now the boss is going to cast Escelon's Fall. We're going to have to deal with this in a different way than we did the first time. We're going to use the fan spreads I showed at the beginning of the guide. We're going to take note of the symbols that we see. Here it's 2 nears back to back, so we now know the pattern is near, near, far, far, and it's a double swap. Swap after 1, swap after 3. And the donut AoEs go off before this mechanic can finish, locking whichever role had the donuts in place. The other role, in this case the DPS, need to take the first hit, because the supports right now can't spread. As soon as the stack markers have gone off, the DPS who are capable of spreading right now are going to spread in so they take the first hit, which is a near bait. Because this is double swap, we now swap and have the supports go in to take the second hit. We wait for 1, and then we swap again after the third hit. And the mechanic's resolved. There's a stock break stack marker afterwards, and then we get Roseblood Bloom. The stage will look like this, though it can also be mirrored. For Roseblood Bloom, the boss will cast Emblazon, and we get 2 ground AoEs appearing. These are going to help us to orient ourselves. 4 players are going to get the rose drops above them. They need to go opposite the 2 ground AoEs. The rest of the players are going to go near the ground AoEs and spread in anticipation for the spread markers that are going to appear on them. Now, as long as your 4 players are positioned with their rose drops as you see here, and the spread players are spread, you more or less can't mess this one up, with one major exception. You cannot have any of the spread players touch these 2 red tiles with their AoE. If they do, because when the rose drops drop, all of this is going to be connected together, that spread damage is going to spread through the entirety of the south section, killing off all of the players that just dropped their AoE. So make sure that you don't touch those 2 tiles, and everything will resolve just nicely. We're now going to have all of the players come up together in one of the safe inner tiles in the middle, and stack nice and tight for encircling thorns. When the purple circles disappear, supports will be tethered to a DPS, and so we need to split them. We'll also get an Alexandrian Banish 3 cast, and that's going to make a stack marker appear on one of the healers. For this, have all your supports run west and all your DPS run east. This will break the thorns. Now, the tricky bit is this stack marker is not a 4-person stack marker, it's an 8-person stack marker. But how do you share an 8-person stack marker if supports are on one side and DPS are on the other? The DPS are going to walk into the red tile. Because we've connected them all together in one giant pathway, the stack damage will permeate through it, and this counts as sharing it as an 8-person stack. After we resolve this, we get a Thorn Catharsis raid-wide, and then another Bud of Valor cast. This is basically just Escelon's Fall, but there are 2 half-arena cleaves to deal with, one before and one after. So look at the pattern, see that we've got the single swap, and right about the time that the second symbol appears, the boss on one side is... Right about the time that the second symbol appears, one of the ads is going to show a half-arena cleave. Make sure any players on that side dodge out of it. As soon as the cleave goes off, position yourself ready for the first cleave of Escelon's Fall. And now just do the mechanic as you did at the very beginning of the fight. Right around the time that the third attack goes off, you'll see there's another cleave from the other ad. Finish the Escelon's Fall first, then dodge this cleave. We get another stock break stack, and Roseblood Bloom. This is a deceptively simple mechanic. For this one, the boss will cast Valorous Ascension, doing 2 hits of raid-wide damage. We're going to get these 2 sort of swipe attacks appearing, and pay attention to where the first ones appear. Whichever direction they're facing, either the 2 or the 4 marker, go the opposite side. There's another set later on, but we don't really care about those. We're going to get a Thunder Slash with this, and what we really need to pay attention to is, do we need to be in or out first? In this case, it's in safe first. We're going to position ourselves in. We're in the correct quadrant, and everything's going to go crazy. But after everything explodes, here's how you dodge this. Go 3 tiles clockwise. If you were in at the start, now you need to go out, and vice versa. 3 tiles clockwise, and because the group was in, now they go out, and the mechanic is resolved. This is a visual mess, but it's actually pretty simple to deal with. There's a Spectre of the Lost Tank Buster, and now we get Roseblood 6th Bloom. For Roseblood 6th Bloom, the pattern will either look like this, or it can look like this instead. Emblazon is going to cause towers to appear, and all supports are all DPS to get the rose drops. The players who do not have rose drops are going to deal with the towers. We're going to have Group 1 West, Group 2 East. The rest of the players are going to their color quadrant, and they're positioning ready to drop these rose drops. But do we drop them in or out? For this, we need to wait for Holy Hazard. Holy Hazard is what makes this whole mechanic a mess. Holy Hazard is going to show a cleave, and then a second cleave. And the tricky bit is that this second cleave is going to go off at the same time as the towers. And you'll notice that the tanks, unfortunately, will get hit by this cleave. Now, even the squishiest player can survive this Holy Hazard cleave with enough mitigation, and with a tank LB, it'll barely even tickle them. But suppose you want to do the mechanic correctly. Well, to deal with this, since the inner towers are getting hit by the second cleave, we drop the roses inner. This creates giant inner tower, which our tanks are going to need to be able to safely soak their towers. Dodge the first Holy Hazard cleave, and then for the second Holy Hazard cleave, whichever players are soaking the towers, they're going to go all the way to the very end of their new super long tower, and there'll be a teeny tiny safe spot for them to be able to still count as soaking their tower. As long as all 4 towers are soaked, everyone should survive just fine. Let me show this mechanic again with slight changes. This time the supports are going to drop the rose drops. DPS go to their towers, melee's in ranged out. The first cleave, and the second cleave. The second cleave is going to hit the outer tower, so we need to make the outer tower bigger. We drop the rose drops out. The rose drops are dropped out. We dodge the first cleave. And then here, the melees can just walk into their towers. The ranged need to run all the way to the very far end to slip into the tiny little edge of their now giant towers. All that's left is a repeat of the first Roseblood Bloom, a Thorned Catharsis raid-wide, a Spectre of the Lost Tank Buster, 3 back-to-back stock breaks for 12 total hits, and then the boss will cast Roseblood Withering. And you'll notice a problem with this stage. Nowhere to be safe this time. The boss will finish with a slow cast of Rose Red, and if you don't kill the boss before this goes off, it's game over. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.